Hi everyone. I've had several of you request some information about how to modify and tweak the child-centered model for tweens and teens. So rather than try to address those questions individually as they come up, I figured it would be easier to just record a video that all of you can watch. Because this is something that we all have to understand and be aware of. If we specialize in kids 3 to 14, that puts us in the range of having 12, 13, and 14-year-olds come in, and we have to know what that looks like for them and how we make that adjustment. And before I dive into my thoughts on how we best handle that age range when they're coming in for a child-centered approach, I want to just briefly address the fact that in the newest edition of the CPRT training, they added a pre-adolescent track. And so if you are familiar with the CPRT training and you have kind of gone through the original model, the new pre-adolescent track takes everything from the traditional CPRT and gives some modifications for parents to work with their tweens and teens as well. So that actually parallels really well with what I'm about to discuss, because rather than a playtime, it becomes an activity. And there's just some words that are switched and some approaches that are changed a little bit. So I'd like to share how I have found success in modifying it for that age range. So first and foremost, I think it's so important to get the elephant out of the room, proverbially. And what I mean by that is, when you bring a 12, 13, 14-year-old into a playroom, there's immediately a barrier that goes up. There's immediately an obstacle to relationship and rapport because they find it awkward that they look around and see all of these toys that they think are so far beneath them emotionally and developmentally, and they have no interest in being around baby dolls and blocks, and it just puts them on edge. So I think it's extremely important right off the bat to address their discomfort. And how I have found that to be most effective is to just say something as simple as, you're looking around and you're seeing that there's a lot of different things in here, and some of them are a lot for a lot younger kids. I see kids as young as 3 years old. So there are things in here for super little kids, and then there are things in here for your age kids. And I just want you to know, I have things that are for kids far younger than you, but there are lots of things in here that you would enjoy doing. So you have to just discuss that right away to reduce some of those inhibitions and reduce some of the discomfort. Otherwise, there's automatically a hindrance to the relationship that you're trying to build. Second, I think it's very important, with all of our kids, right? The child-centered model encourages this, but specifically with our tweens and teens, it's really important to give them power and control and responsibility as soon as possible. So as soon as they walk in the room, you give them a choice of where they'd like to sit. As soon as you walk in the room, you give them the choice of whatever you can provide. So if you're going to do the house tree person drawing, you give them choices of what they use to color with, draw with, what kind of paper they use, where they'd like to sit. Whatever choices you can provide, you make it very clear that they have the ownership and responsibility because it's their time. With my tweens and teens, I use the phrase, this is your hour to do with whatever you choose. So notice the phrase, you can play with all the toys in most of the ways that you'd like, switches to, this is your hour, you get to choose what we do. Because you want it to be very clear, the impact is the same, the intent is the same, you're in charge. Child-centered model says, you do what you need to do, and I'll give you the time, the tools, and the opportunity to do it. So you give control, power, and responsibility as soon as possible. Finally, when you're offering choices, you want to make it very clear that the child, or the tween or teen in this case, knows that they have that ability to decide. So what you want them to understand is that there are options. So you say to them, in here, for every time that we're together, you can choose whether you want to talk or not talk. You can choose whether you'd like to play or not play. You can choose to play a game. You can choose to play cards. You can choose to throw a ball against a wall. Sometimes they need to be given options, because a playroom is overwhelming when a child no longer feels comfortable playing. And my disclaimer is, so that that's not misinterpreted, it is not that they don't need to play. It's that they don't feel comfortable playing. They feel that they've outgrown it. And my air quote is on purpose, because no one ever outgrows play. We just think that we have. So it's really important to make it clear, you can choose to do this, you can choose to do this. I have games that a lot of my teens like to play. You can choose to do this. You can choose to color in a coloring book. You can choose to play with this kinetic sand. You can choose to play with Play-Doh. You give them options so that it eliminates the unknown of what in the world am I supposed to do surrounded by all of these toys that I don't feel comfortable playing with. So that's my third point. And then know this as a related aside. They will eventually, and they do know that they need to play. So when you have those 12, 13, 14-year-olds that walk in and they act like they're too big and too mature and too advanced and too whatever it is, too cool to play, what they need more than anything in their healing is to play. And they've convinced themselves that they can't do it anymore. So over time, when their inhibitions come down, when they have the trust and the rapport with you, when they believe that this is an unconditional love and acceptance zone and there's no judgment, they won't care that they look silly playing. They won't care that they play Candyland with you. They won't care that they're goofing off like a kid again once the relationship is built. But early on, you're not there yet. So know that they do need and want to play, they're just not ready. And there should be no expectation that they do. But if you leave it open-ended, you can choose to talk or not talk. You can choose to play or not play. They know where the boundaries are, and then they operate within those. And above all, relationship matters most. So your role, your job, just like with every young kid that walks through the playroom doors, is the be with attitudes and the relationship, because that is the center of everything. So if your teens, even when they're uncomfortable, feel that you truly care about them, I'm here, I hear you, I understand, I care, I delight in you, this is your time, make it what you need it to be, they will get to the place where they're able to do their work. So the relationship is at the heart still of everything that we do. And one final thought. A lot of times people will say, well, how do I respond to a teen? If they sit and talk to me the whole time, how do I remain child-centered? If they throw a ball against a wall the entire time, how do I remain child-centered? You respond to them exactly the same way you would a child. You use the 4 pillars, you use the principles, you use the rules of thumb. You use the exact same tools that you do with younger kids. Remember, these tools are effective for all ages, including adults. We can reflect an adult's feeling. We can offer an adult a choice. We can encourage an adult. So the process remains exactly the same verbally, even when it becomes activity-based and discussion-based a little more than solely playfully based. So I hope that is helpful for you. We have found great success with teens in just meeting them where they are, using the same principles, and making them feel comfortable to do what they need to do. And when you let them know this is your hour each week to do whatever you need to do, that's very powerful. So I hope that you find that helpful. Teens and tweens, you can absolutely use a child-centered model with these thoughts that I shared with you. Talk to you soon. Bye.